So, the Democrats and their media mouthpieces are having an absolute meltdown over the Arizona audit. Well, Biden's DOJ is all of a sudden stepping in while simultaneously he's calling for more online censorship. But the real question here is what could they possibly have to hide? All this and more on today's show. Welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse, coming to you live from Central Ohio. Of course, as I like to start with, where do I have everyone coming from? I've got Sharon from deep East Texas. I'm jealous. We've got Janet from Idaho, She Patriot Fort Wayne, Sandy Brown. I see you here. Thank you for coming. And yeah, you mentioned Rachel Madcow, which I'm going to have a little video clip to show of her today having a complete meltdown. A meltdown of what though? What are they afraid of? Let's look at that. Audrey from Tennessee, thank you. Hugo Balls from Canada, Chinese immigrant in Canada. Thank you for joining, Hugo. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of Canada feeling like communist China these days. Jail from UK. Let's see. Patriots Worldwide. Thank you. Giorgio, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, from Hungary. Thank you. Annie, New Jersey. OG from Southwest Texas, Martha's Vineyard, Lithuania. Wow, UNSN 88 joining from Lithuania. Thank you for joining. So let's go ahead and dive in. But before I do, just a quick reminder to hit the like button. As you know, YouTube suppresses anybody that speaks the truth these days. It's becoming communist China here. Hit the like button, subscribe. If you might have subscribed, but YouTube unsubscribes people. I consistently have numbers dropping off. Hit the notification bell. And one thing is that now it may not be working properly. This is a test, but I'm supposed to be live on Rumble right now. So Rumble now has an option to go live on Rumble. So I'm going to be I think the show should be live right now on Rumble. If it's not, I'll have it figured out by the next episode. But I want to be able to have this program and not be only relying on YouTube, because who knows when they're going to pull the plug. I don't think I'm someone that they like. I think I'm quite the opposite. So again, you can join me on Rumble. I know a lot of you are watching on Facebook. The end goal is for us to all get off of these platforms that they've been using to destroy our country: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and find these other freedom-loving platforms like Rumble, BitChute, etc. So thanks again for joining. As usual, I'm so excited to be here. So happy to have everyone here and really looking forward to this. Obviously, the Arizona situation has been a key item that we're all focusing on. I think that for a lot of us, it's probably the first time since January 20th that we've felt maybe this little glimpse of hope. We'll see. One thing I'll give a quick caveat or a warning that I might have to speak in maybe secret language for some of the show, because there's certain things I just can't talk about on the show, and even mentioning certain words and whatnot will get me flagged, and I'll get a strike, and eventually that leads to the deletion of my channel, which might be inevitable, but I'd like to delay that for as long as possible because I'm reaching more folks the more I do these. So thanks again for joining me. Let's dive into what's happening in Arizona. So if you haven't seen the story yet, maybe good for you. You're not watching the news, but there's a massive audit happening in Maricopa County in Arizona that's being led by the Republican-led Senate of Arizona. It is happening as we speak. They've got, I think it's around 2.1 million ballots. The Maricopa refused to give them access to one of the main convention centers, so they're using, I think it's like a veteran memorial, large stadium, to conduct this audit. If you go to, I think it's azaudit.org, you can actually watch the live stream of all the video cameras for what they're doing. They're doing UV. They're doing complete, just thorough physical audit of every single ballot just to see what they come up with, right? I mean, if there's no fraud, then there's no fraud. But they're just going to see what they come up with. And what's interesting is that now a lot of other states are following suit, right? So New Hampshire is one of the states that's had some major progress yesterday. and beginning that, pushing towards the start of their audit. There's things happening, I believe, in Nevada, Michigan. So there's a series of dominoes that are happening from this. And so let's dive into what's happening in Arizona, because something big happened yesterday, that the Department of Justice, I think it's their civil rights division, which let me pull up an article for you to review with you. So this article is on the conservativetreehouse.com, theconservativetreehouse.com. Highly recommend the website. They have fantastic content. It's where I go to get a lot of what I would say to be important information you're not going to find on a lot of the other more mainstream media, or even some of the other media that just aren't picking up on everything. So let's look at what they're saying here. It says the DOJ attempts to get involved in Arizona ballot audit. As predicted, the DOJ Civil Rights Division, they're always looking out for our civil rights, aren't they, cites lawfare activists and media reports as evidence of concern. So this is an important point. In the letter they sent, they're citing these lawfare activists, which we're going to get into who's behind those groups, the usual suspects, and media reports, specifically the Washington Post, as their evidence of concern. Right, so let's go. It says, everyone knew this was coming. The feds are attempting to get involved in the Maricopa County ballot audit. The DOJ Civil Rights Division has sent a letter, PDF available if I want to show it to you, or you can go on and find it yourself, to the Arizona State Senate, claiming their review of lawfare statements and media reports may show evidence of auditing issues that violate federal laws. So what's kind of ridiculous about this is that the letter, as I mentioned, it from the Department of Justice goes on to cite media reports from the Washington Post as evidence to justify their involvement. Now, remember, it says previously the DOJ narrative was that each state makes up its own election rules. Now the DOJ is saying falsely that Arizona might be breaking federal laws, right? So this is something that is kind of at the core of our country and the Constitution, that the elections are to be managed at the state level, not the federal level, right? This is one of the things that protects the integrity of our elections, period, is that they can't be controlled at the federal level. It's all done at the state level, right? So if you remember, before 2020, in the name of COVID, at the state level, all of these laws were changed to make last-minute adjustments to allow for what I believe to be more suspicious activity in the voting process, right? So basically what this letter is saying is that what I believe is this is the first arrow fired from the Department of Justice. And I suspect, as a lot of people have predicted, that the Department of Justice will get more involved in this, maybe try to take over it. I mean, they're trying anything they can possibly do to stop this. And the Democrats, the media, some of our favorite rhinos, they're all freaking out, right? They've now coined this as the big lie. They're doubling down on the fact that that what people have said about the 2020 election is a conspiracy theory. That they're demonizing anybody that believes anything but the official narrative. Which, again, when everything is moving in unison to censor one particular viewpoint, for me, I don't care what that viewpoint is. I want to know what it is and why it's being censored, because usually the powers that be, the people that are in control, whom I don't really trust very much. Trump was one of the few people that gained control in our country that I actually trusted. Usually, if they're trying to censor something, they want to cover something up. They want to hide something. It's like when the laptop stuff came out, prior to the election, about the nation's favorite son. The censorship was maddening that was happening. I had a lot of friends that got their entire YouTube channels deleted. People with 500,000 subscribers deleted within 24 hours of that story coming out. So this is, again, when all these things are acting in unison, look who's in charge, what do they have to hide, and why are they acting in this way, right? So let's look at this for another article. This is the Gateway Pundit. Again, one of my favorite. They don't really do as in-depth articles usually. I look at them as more of an aggregator. They do a great job of scouring what's happening across the internet and finding good stories to share, right? So this is Jim Hoft. So what he's saying is that the Democrats are really, really worried about the Arizona audit, and all of their big guns are now involved. Right. So I'll read here really quickly. Now, I might have to read over some of these words. Like I can't say this out loud. I'll get in trouble for that. Who's in control? Well, usually people you can't talk about. So it's pretty clear the Democrats and their DS will do anything to stop the ongoing 2020 election forensic audit in Maricopa County. They tried using the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, the Democratic Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, who's got a lot of very suspicious funding behind her, their attorneys, and their nonprofits. And now they're bringing out the big guns, right? So basically what this article is going in is explaining how much they're freaking out about this and how they're trying every single thing they can to get this stopped. And says, so basically, what Jim says here is ever since the file numbers were conjured up, there's been a defensive to prevent any legitimate audit of the results, right? We're seeing that happen statewide. They've been so defensive of that, right? So yes, he says, sure, there were a couple of audit reports from a couple of auditors that the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors claimed were legit, but most independent and objective observers were not sold this was the case. So now here we are with an audit taking place of the results that includes a forensic review of all of the 2.1 million ballots recorded in this election and a review of 6 truckloads of voting machines used in the election. And the Democrats are going crazy. Okay, so last week, 3 of the Democrats' largest weapons wrote a letter to the DOJ demanding they step in and stop the audit based on what participants in the audit claimed were lies. Right, so I'm going to look at one of those major organizations next after I show you that letter. So this, again, they're referencing the conservative treehouse with this. So let's take a look at this letter. So this is the actual letter that was written. So these 3 organizations, the Brennan Center for Justice, the Leadership Conference, and Protect Democracy, were basically in cahoots together. They wrote this letter together. This is April 29th. To the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, basically saying within this letter, there's 2 primary things that they're claiming here. One is that they're saying that the ballots have kind of been unsafely handled, and that they're not being handled with the official people that should be looking over, because these are third-party companies, right? Cyber Ninjas being the lead company that they brought in to conduct the audit, that are doing this, right? But the question is that wouldn't you want an independent company conducting the audit, right? That's like, it's like what happens if your business gets audited by the IRS? Like imagine if I said, well, look, IRS, like I'll do the auditing myself. You can keep your hands out of it. I'll tell you if I've cheated on my taxes or not, right? Of course not, right? So it's like what they're trying to say is they're using these stupid excuses. And I believe that what they're doing here with these excuses that really aren't grounded in much is they're just trying to set up the process. They're setting up a narrative for the media to follow along with, to then bring in the DOJ and then start using more force, right? Which we saw the amount of executive orders that came through in the first couple of months under Biden. So obviously they're not afraid to wield their power in ways that are completely unconstitutional. But let's look a little bit behind this though, because right, some of the questions I'm always asking, who's behind it and who's behind that person, right? So let's look at Protect Democracy, this organization. And one thing about these people, if you want to call them that, is that they always have these very lofty sounding names, right? The Leadership Conference, Protect Democracy, right? So it's always this very grandiose sounding organization that you'd think, oh, wow, that they sound like they're doing such a good thing for the American citizens, for the American people. But let's look at who's behind this. This is interesting. Okay, so this is an article, this came out on the National Pulse, which you'll see I pull National Pulse up here quite often. Natalie Winters especially, she does incredible reporting on China. So this is an article that came out in 2020, okay, talking about who's behind the Transition Integrity Group, which the Transition Integrity Group is a group that's primarily funded by Protect Democracy. So let's look at who are the key players behind all of this. Okay. So what they're saying, so the National Pulse can reveal the often described nonpartisan, load of BS, Transition Integrity Project, an organization claiming to work to defend the integrity of America's November elections, has links to former President Barack Obama, being funded by an organization, which is the Protect Democracy, led by Obama lawyers and over 20 White House staff. Right. So let's look at this. So the critical connection comes through President Obama's former associate White House counsel, Lyin, who heads the anti-Trump litigation efforts Protect Democracy Project and United to Protect Democracy. So it sounds, you might look at this guy and say, okay, the former associate White House counsel, what does that mean? So that particular job is a very, very, very close job to the president. He's on the inside a lot of the discussions. I'm not going to say it's like your secretary, but it's someone that he's very, very close and trusted by Obama, right? So this is the person that is now heading up, and the project started in 2017, shortly after Trump won the election. And even though Hillary claimed left, right, and all over the place that there was fraud and all of these different things, she was never banned from Twitter. She was never banned from Facebook. The media never demonized her. In fact, they launched right into the whole Russia collusion, right? So what it's saying here is that, and this is almost laughable, that Basin previously headed the far-left Aves network, founded in turn by the leftist MoveOn.org group, as well as the Truman National Security Project, which has featured Joe Biden policy advisor Jake Sullivan, and listen to this, and Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, on its board. It gets deeper and deeper, right? So he goes in to talk about the Transition Integrity Project, and it's basically how it was almost invented. It had come about prior to the election, and they were, it was actually first reported by National Pulse in early August after a slew of fawning media articles about a group which performed war games to predict what would happen in the case of a disputed election in November. I'm not sure if you recall that, but they actually performed these war games on different scenarios of the election to see how they could basically make sure that Biden is the person that got in. All these media and other think tanks were involved, right? So the group is completely anti-Trump, but it also has ties to Open Society Foundation, George Soros, and also ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Wow, imagine that, right? The CCP is involved. Thanks, CCP, for helping us ensure integrity in our elections. So let's look at the Protect Democracy Project, though. So the TIP, their website revealed the group is funded by the United to Protect Democracy, a branch of the broader Protect Democracy Project. Okay, so it goes into CDEP. So who's behind this, right? The link to the links to Obama, which you've already started to expose the links to Obama. There's a whole host of other high-level officials from Obama that are involved in this, right? Here's a picture of Obama. This is Lyin. This is the person that is now running this group. Okay, so then, but when it gets into this, it gets into the globalists that are involved, and then as it relates to Russiagate. But then, as we look at this, we come down to the bottom here, and we see, oh, okay, Rosa Brooks and George Soros. So the uncovered money trail is yet another blow to the group's facade of bipartisanship and neutrality, in addition to its founder, Rosa Brooks, vowing she'd do every legal and ethical thing within her power to elect Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden. So the bottom of the group's website, which was a quickie pull down after it went up last week, reads that Transition Integrity Project is funded by United to Protect Democracy. Okay, so it goes on to say, so Rosa Brooks was the legal counsel for George Soros, right? And it even says here, it says the Transition Integrity Project has previously been exposed for its links to George Soros's Open Society Institute, right? So again, it ties into John Podesta. It's just the whole host of characters that we're used to being seen here. And so as a little bit of a dive into that, but if you look at the bigger picture of what's happening with this, right, is that you have these same groups of people, right? Soros, you have Obama, right, who I think has never stepped aside. I think is highly involved with what we see happening here, right? It's these same characters. And of course, you have the Chinese Communist Party that are all working together, right? And so what I see unfolding now, right, is if you look at, okay, this letter comes out, right? This is a playbook, right? Okay, what are they going to do? So you have the audit happening. Obviously, they're very fearful. They're freaking out about what could possibly be found, right? They're absolutely freaking out. So you have the audit happening. They're trying everything they can do on a state level to control it. That's not working, okay? So then they have their cohorts, they have their organizations, right, that are backed, tied to Soros, Obama, all the same characters. Now they pin this open letter, or they pin this letter to the Department of Justice, okay? Now, and then the Department of Justice then uses the Washington Post media, right, as a reference, and this group of people, this lawfare group, right, to then they release their letter saying that we're concerned with what's happening based upon what we see in the media and based upon what we're hearing from these lawfare groups. We're concerned about what's happening. So this is a classic example of how the media works together with the Democratic Party and the rhinos that are coming out and reinforcing this. I'm sure you saw what Liz Cheney was saying about this. Okay. So basically what they can do is they have all these groups, all these different organizations, nonprofits, they can put together all their research and they release these things. They have the media craft their stories, but then they use what the media is crafting. So say they wanted to spread a gigantic lie, right? So they create this small little story here. It gets passed over to here. Then that media covers it, right, as if it's true. Right? This is how disinformation works, right? So then that media covers it as if it's true, but then the other media start covering what that media is saying. But then, so then what you realize that the foundation of that story is just this little thing that says, according to research done by this organization, right? That then that's what becomes it's like the seed that then spreads this entire lie that grows. So then all the other media start covering it. And then the government gets in and they see the media covering these things. They start creating policies to react to these things. When the whole thing was started, it was spawned by these little nonprofit organizations or these NGOs. And if you look at who's in control of the NGOs, it's the same people that are making the laws or that are controlling the whole thing. So this is how they're able to accomplish these things. And with one of their significant tools being the mainstream media. So what happens then is if the American public did not agree with what was happening at this level, right? If the American public did not agree with, say, Biden's actions, so I think that the majority of them don't. You look at the YouTube likes and dislikes on his videos, you can see that. But they have to be able to use the media to spin this narrative, right? So another thing, though, is as I mentioned, or I read in that article, they had the what they call the war games right before the election happened. So another thing that the media will do is they have to keep control of the story, right? So what they do is that whenever they see something getting ready to happen, they then have to go out there and say, well, this is probably going to happen. If you remember, this was back in early last year, mid last year, before the election happened, there was all kinds of media coverage all about how Trump was going to act in a way that he would steal everything, right? I have to be careful with how I phrase certain things. But there is this very strong narrative being pushed that Trump would do X, that Trump wouldn't concede. Now, of course, those things didn't end up playing out properly, but they had to paint that picture just in case that happened. So let's take a quick look at what Rachel Madcow has to say about all of this. And this is just her freaking out over what's happening, but you can see two things, right? One is she obviously knows there's something to hide. Otherwise, why would she be freaking out? I've used this analogy before. If the police show up to someone's house and they say, look, we believe you stole the red Corvette. Your neighbors saw you parking it in your garage and closing the door. Can you please open your garage door and show us that the car is not there? And then we'll go on our way, right? That person that's guilty is going to do everything they can do to not let the police look in the door. And he's probably going to freak out. How dare you accuse me of stealing that red Corvette? I'm a law-abiding citizen. You can see it. It's like a small child. You can always see when they're guilty, right? So you see that all over Rachel. She's completely freaking out, having a meltdown, worried about what this is going to reveal about things. While simultaneously, because she knows things are going to come out. She knows that there are things that are going to be found in this audit that are going to change the entire narrative. So what she's then saying is she's already laying down the groundwork to discredit whatever is found. So just watch this short clip of her. And it's I guess you could say it's entertaining, but just watch this short clip of her and you can see these things playing out.
What the Arizona Republicans are doing here, this process by which they are bastardizing the actual secure election from November 2020, and they're going to produce some result that says that it was some other fraudulent thing, will be used by the Trump part of the Republican Party and the Trump right to cast doubt on the 2020 election among their most fervent supporters in a way that none of their failed lawsuits in the past have been able to do. They got the actual ballots and they handed them to conspiracy theorists who say that, QAnon is the mastermind or whatever it is that stopped this, that they need to use to stop the steal and all. I mean, the craziest parts of the pro-Trump conspiracy theory world have the actual ballots and are going to declare that something different happened in election.
I'm really sorry to subject you to watching that. I actually threw up a little bit in my mouth while watching her. But you can see exactly how they're crafting this narrative. What she's saying is she's even saying, I'm sure they're going to find something because, of course, these conspiracy theorists, they have this. So I'm sure they're going to find something that's going to fuel and further the Trump rhetoric. That of what Trump has been saying about this, right? So it's like something about how the media works, but it's not just the media. It's these lunatics. There's a lot of names for them that I can't say, but these people, these evil people that are that have a lot of power. I'm not gonna say they're in power because I think there's a lot of they're in the process of losing the power, but they're telling us what they're doing ahead of time. They're always putting out their plans ahead of time, right? So you can see in this video with her, she's already saying, this is what they're going to do. Because why? Because the people that still watch her, the 37, BLM Antifa activists that still watch Rachel Madcow, what she's doing is she's telling them what's going to happen. So then once those results get announced, they can come back and they say, look, see, this is exactly what they said. These, cyber ninjas with their guy that was tweeting about his thoughts on the election, all these conspiracy theorists are now making things up, right? And so this is exactly what they're doing. And you can see it happening, and it's kind of depressing. But the thing is that truth, I believe that you can only hold truth down for so long, right? And there's a quote that I don't have it on me, but I'll kind of paraphrase it a little bit. That's such a good quote, which basically says that all lies are built upon a foundation of truth. You have to have truth at the origin. But when you build those lies, it creates a mountain on top of that lie, right? Which is what we're seeing. They have created a mountain of lies on top of the truth. And they're hiding that truth. They're doing every single thing possible to hide that truth from us, to hide the truth from the American people, to censor anybody that speaks the truth, to demonize and slander anybody that comes out to speak the truth or show the truth. They're trying so hard, but what this quote says is amazing, is that when the truth is set on top of that mountain of lies, the entire mountain crumbles. And that's what they know is going to happen. And that's why they're freaking out so much, because this truth is emerging. So let's take a look at some other perspective of what's happening in Arizona and what that could mean. So this is an OAN article that I think really adds a lot of value to the overall story, right? So this guy is a former Trump aide. His name is, let's see, they've got a video with him downstairs. I'm not going to try to pronounce Eftian. Eftian, I think, is his last name. So Boris Eftian. I apologize, Boris, if I've mispronounced your name. It's a new name for me. So what this guy said come out is happening, and this is very important. So a former special assistant to President Trump claimed a freight train of election audits are coming. A freight train. Actually, someone in the comments at the beginning of the video, they mentioned that they hoped a freight train would kind of run over everybody. Like, this is the freight train, right? He said, so on Thursday, this is last week, Boris Epstein accused the mainstream media Democrats and Republicans in name only, our favorite rhinos, of trying to discredit the ongoing forensic audit in Maricopa County. He said critics fear the audit will reveal fraud, in turn prompting more states to commence their own audits. The former aide added that MAGA supporters are demanding answers and have the support of dedicated Republicans. He says, quote, they don't want this audit to be completed, and if it is completed, they want it to be discredited, right? Exactly what we're talking about with Rachel Maddow. Once this audit is done in Arizona and it shows what we expect it to show, even a small fraction of the magnitude of error that we've been talking about, the freight train of audit is coming down the way, right? So what he was saying there, in that he has a video down there that I watched, and he's saying that they think that the margin of error is something closer to 30%. But what he's saying is that even if it's a fraction of that, a small fraction of that, it undoes everything. And the point that he's making here is, if they find that small fraction in Arizona, then that becomes a precedent. That becomes a precedent. And you might have all the other states, obviously not all of them, but you might have Pennsylvania, Georgia, which you have some Georgia Republicans coming out and speaking against the audit. Well, we know how many rhinos live in Georgia, right? It's like Africa over there. They've got so many rhinos running around, right? So anyway, what he's saying is that if that happens, it sets this precedent. And then you're going to have all these other states, dominoes is a word I'm being seen used a lot, right? Like dominoes happening. So look, I have no idea what's going to happen with this. I think probably similar to you, ever since November 3rd, I was constantly met with excitement and like, oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And then it's constantly met with disappointment, right? So I think that especially after the 6th and then the 20th, I really had to get to a place within myself where I couldn't let my heart get so, bothered. I had to kind of separate myself emotionally from what was happening with Trump and Biden. So I'm not letting myself get too excited over this, because I'm used to the news being, crazy, pedophile caught, gets off with 30 days of community service, versus some law-abiding citizen does something and gets 15 years in jail. I'm so used to hearing these stories where it's like we're getting completely screwed by the system. But this does give me a little bit of hope. And there's a lot of other things that give me hope as well, right? There's a lot of other things I think there are a lot of reason for hope. But what you have DeSantis doing, a lot of other, real Republican governors are standing up, protecting their states, really going back to the Constitution. I think there's been, what you would call a great awakening of people that are waking up and seeing what's really happening in our country. And they're waking up and seeing who's really controlling things. And those people, those powers that be, those small group of people, which I can't talk too much about, that's the thing they're most afraid of, is people waking up, right? So let me jump to the kind of next article, which leads us, it's the next natural progression of this, is that Biden, well, imagine this, right? Sleepy Joe Biden supports big tech cracking down on disinformation. Imagine that. So if you missed it yesterday, President Trump, Facebook was supposed to make their decision as to whether to uphold or not the decision to suspend President Donald Trump. They upheld the decision. They said, we're not going to let him back on the platform. They had some stupid reasons, which are very frustrating to me. But it says in this article here, again, the Epoch Times, I would say my number one place I go to for news, especially as it relates to China and things like censorship. So President Joe Biden is supportive of Facebook and other big tech companies taking action to combat disinformation and misinformation, the White House said after the Facebook's oversight board upheld the technology giant's decision to suspend current president Donald Trump. The president's view is that the major platforms, this is a quote, right? This is from Jen Psaki. The president's view is that the major platforms have a responsibility related to the health and safety of all Americans to stop amplifying untrustworthy content, disinformation, and misinformation, especially related to COVID-19, vaccinations, and elections. Seem to be the three things that they're most fearful of dissenting views on, which really makes me think a lot about those things. And we've seen over the past several months, broadly speaking, I'm not placing any blame on any individual or group. We've seen it from a number of sources, right? So she also says that the administration believes in the First Amendment rights, but the platform should have the ability to police information that is deemed misleading. Oh, well, I'm glad that President Biden's press secretary is interpreting the First Amendment for us. That's fantastic, right? Yeah. This is communist talk. The truth will set you free. Excellent comment. This is communist talk, right? This is exactly how they frame things to slowly censor and prevent these dissenting views. But so on the flip side, though, and I'm not sure if everyone has seen this, but this is something I'm very excited to share with you, is that President Trump has launched what he calls From the Desk of Donald Trump. Let me pull this up and show you. So this is, if you go to donaldjtrump.com, right? Which is his slogan is Save America. If you go up here, click on Desk at the very top. So basically what this is imagine it like Trump's own personal Twitter feed. So now again, I know that people have talked about Trump launching a social media, which I really hope so. I want to continue to see what happens with Frank's speech. I'm a little disappointed with what happened, and maybe it's just because of all the cyber attacks that we don't have that yet from Mike Lindell. But Donald Trump has launched his own social media. Well, I guess it's not really a social media. It's his own just personal media. It's social with himself, where you can go to, as I mentioned, donaldjtrump.com/desk. You can sign up here. Right. So there's a little button you can click to sign up if you want notifications. It allows you to share. It's funny how he gives you the option to share this on Facebook and Twitter, which to me is, Trump is just the ultimate troll, because it's like they're not going to let him do that. But you can go on and we can all share what he's saying. And he puts those links in there. Right. So anyway, this is great, though, because this is allowing us to now be hearing from him more often. Yes, and it is more like I see Mitch in DC saying, yes, it's a blog. Yeah, it really is kind of his own personal blog. But this is a very big step, because I believe that he is the voice that's leading the free people of the world. So being able to hear him more directly, and you can go on here and read. I mean, I check this every day now. You can read exactly what he's saying right here. The fake news media, working in close conjunction with big tech and the radical left Democrats, is doing everything they can to perpetuate the term the big lie, right, when speaking about the election. And he's basically saying here, I mean, I can't read this out loud, because if I read what President Trump says, it'll get me banned or, of course, demonetized, as they're doing overall with me. So this is just very encouraging to me that we've got this access to Trump like this. Again, I really hope that we're going to see whatever his social media is come out soon, because what they fear the most is that we are communicating with each other. And that's why they're trying so hard to disband, the Facebook groups, when they removed Parler from the App Store. That was a major hit, even when they got pulled off of the servers. So they're trying everything that they can to prevent us from communicating with each other. But again, here we have who I look to be my leader. Like I follow President Trump. I believe that he truly is putting America first. I believe that he's truly trying to return America to the values of our forefathers, to return us to a place where we were at in 1776 and bring us back to that place. And I believe that we will get there. I really do. I think that though I see that right now, you can see it more and more that there is a communist coup happening. I believe that China and these globalists are doing everything in their power to bring down America. But at that same time, again, we see the power of the Constitution giving the power to these states to enact, creating Second Amendment sanctuary states. Incredible. Like to me, that's incredible, right? No communist regime, no totalitarian regime has ever been able to overthrow a country that had a well-armed group of citizens. And I think there's maybe around, this is the numbers as of last year, it's roughly there's 650 million guns owned by private citizens or private individuals worldwide, and more than half of those are in America. Right now, again, it might be about a year old. I think it's increased a lot now. So again, the fact that we have all these states are now forming Second Amendment sanctuary states, we're fighting back. That's the thing, is that the patriots are coming together. We're banding together. We're finding, like all you folks that are watching here today, we are doing this together. We're strengthening. We're finding our community, and we're not going to just roll over. We're not just going to, roll over and say, "Hey, come take our country." We're saying, you know what? I will die to protect my country, right? And that's what a patriot is. If you look at what the definition of a patriot, right? Fundamentally, it's someone that will give anything to protect their country that they believe in. And I believe that America is the greatest country that's ever existed on earth. I believe it's a country that was, from its beginning, it was blessed by God. And the more we bring God back into our country, and the more we expose this whole communist evil agenda that's been seeping into our country for really, honestly, it's almost since its founding that they started this. They didn't just start this 20, 30 years ago. When when we won the Revolutionary War, it's not like the British Crown went back and they said, "Well, the Americans won, so let's let them have their country." No, they instantly were conspiring on how to take back, and that's the people doing that has evolved over the years. You've got the Federal Reserve that was implemented, all these different plans to take America back. And right now, what we're seeing is the convergence of multiple plans to bring down America, because anybody that has wanted to achieve global power and global control, they all have known that America is the one country that would stand in their way. And when President Trump, when he came down that escalator in 2016, when he won that election, that disrupted their entire plan, and they did not expect that to happen. And so then and here we are now. So this man, Donald J. Trump, he is leading the freedom fighters that are standing up for our country. And so I know it's all stressful. If you watch this too much, or sometimes it's easy to feel defeated. But fundamentally, I do believe, as Sandy Brown, America can't fall because of these Satanists. Yes, I believe that this is a battle of good and evil we're experiencing, but there's a reason why we see the truth. I believe that we were chosen for this. And I look at this, and this is what gets me going. It keeps me excited. Is like, I believe that I'm a warrior here, right? It's not like a war of, 1776 where we're, grabbing our guns and muskets and running out with our pitchforks. Like, this is a different kind of war, but all of us here, we're fighting for good. We're fighting on God's behalf to protect this country and to protect the world. So anyway, it's 12:44, almost 12:45. I usually have to end up, kind of close up around here. I want to give people an opportunity, though, if you have any comments, questions, I'd love hearing from you. I love hearing your voices. And I will say, actually, I'm watching the concurrent viewers. And so across all the platforms, we're almost at 700 people watching, which I think is the most I've ever had on a live show. So that's encouraging, right? That just shows us that if we all come together, again, thank you for hitting the like button, helping this get shared, that they can only do so much. So I'll read a few comments that I see here. Janet Otto, and God is the commander of the armies of heaven. Absolutely, right? You've got Satan and his minions trying to do what they're doing, but God is always in control, and God is always stronger, right? Satan can only get by so far with the delusion and trying to keep everyone tricked into playing into his game and convincing people that he'll bring them, heaven on earth, right? That's always what Satan's promised, heaven on earth. But earth was never meant to be a place to have heaven. Earth is where you earn your right to go to heaven. That's my own personal view there. I see Jeff Gladson asking, are you on Rumble? Yes. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, in case you missed it, Rumble they're now allowing live streaming. So I think I'm live on Rumble right now. This was our first day setting it up. So I'm going to look and see if it actually went properly. But my next episode, which is next week on Tuesday at noon, I do expect to be working properly on Rumble because I definitely want to give more people the opportunity to watch this show live without having to give in to Google and big tech and YouTube. Sandy asking if I think Caitlyn Jenner is trying to pull a fast one by running for governor in California. To be honest, I don't know. I know that that Caitlyn had a big interview with Sean Hannity last night. I haven't watched it. I've only watched small clips of it. I want to watch it though. Oh, Lisa M. I definitely am live on Rumble. Great. Fantastic. God, I'm live on Rumble. Really good. So anyway, to answer the question about Caitlyn, I don't know. I don't have an opinion yet. I would say that honestly, anybody's better than Newsom. I think Newsom has done a lot of shady backdoor deals with China. I can't confirm that for you, but a lot of things I've read, there's a lot of speculation around that. But again, I don't know. I think again, anyone's better than Newsom in California. So again, thanks for everybody for liking. If you want to follow me, as I've mentioned before, the two primary social media that I'm using are the main one is Telegram. So it's just Telegram, t.me/Man in America. I should be pretty easy to find on there. And I also use Safe Chat. I see Melanie asking, what's my Rumble address? I believe it's just Man in America, Man in America. So if you search for Man in America, you'll be able to find me on there. The account name is Man in America. I think I've got 7,000 or 8,000 subscribers. So if you see that on there, then that's where you can find me. Let's see. Okay, I see Sue Smith, you searching on Rumble did not come up in the search. I'll look into that. But one thing I actually would say is I know on Rumble, if you're searching, you can search for video or channel. So just search for channel. Make sure you're searching for the Rumble channel on there, not the video. And I'll go on there actually, and I will start to put on my YouTube, I'll start putting the links into the video description. That way you can find me a lot easier. So, well, gosh, everyone, thank you so much for coming. I think this is the biggest live show I've had yet. Lisa M, thank you. She's found me on there. And Lisa N, I owe you an email. I will acknowledge that. Sorry I haven't gotten to that yet. So, I see Audrey asking really quick, do you know when Mike Lindell will have Frank speech fully running for users? I don't know. Actually, I don't know what's happening with Frank's speech. So I hope that he's getting it up soon. I mean, he's an incredible patriot, what he's doing. Actually, there you go. So Michael Roach is saying Rumble. So rumble.com/user/Man in America is how you can find that. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to hop off now. I could keep going as usual. I love being here with you all. Just a quick reminder that my next show will be on Tuesday at noon. So right now I'm still keeping the Tuesdays and Thursdays 12 o'clock schedule. I wanted to go daily sooner, but as I've mentioned before, I've got a really exciting project I'm working on. It's taking a lot of time that I think will be very exciting to all of you. So again, thanks everyone for joining. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thank you just for the positive energy you give back to me. I'm very grateful. I feel very blessed to have an opportunity to play this role. And I hope that all of us can find our own roles that we can play to really fight this battle. I think to be, soldiers of the light and fighting this battle. So, all right. Thanks everyone. Have a wonderful, beautiful weekend. We have so much to be grateful for, and God bless. Take care.